Okay, today we're going to start on Lamed Amud Beis. I think we're holding by Meis Tzarech Litel Rishos Chulu. It's like eight lines down. Okay. It goes like this. We thank Hashem that we're able to learn Torah every day. And this chesed of our learning, we should have the Beis Hamikdash immediately. We're talking about someone that had lent money to a Kohen, to a Levi, to a poor person, and in order to get the money back, he was going to keep the meiser, or the whatever shuma could be, or meiserani. He's going to keep it, and that was going to be a payment for the money that he lent. Now that would only work if the person was still alive, because that was his arrangement with him. But if the debt was inherited by the passed away and it went to the inheritors, the heirs, so then you would have to make up a new arrangement with them, how they want to pay it back. This was an arrangement he had with the father. So it says, Meis, if he dies, he has to go and make an arrangement with the heirs, how he's going to pay it back, how they're going to pay it back. They can make the same arrangement if they agree. Tanya. So then the Bryce Rebbe Emer Yershin Sheyarshu, and it says the heirs is talking about inheritors that inherited. The Gemara says, Miyaka Yershin Layarti, is there such thing as inheritors that don't inherit? What did you mean when you said inheritors that inherit? Thank you. So we have an interpretation here by Elam Rabbi Yechanan. Yechanan says we're talking about sheyarshu karka v'lo sheyarshu ksafim. They inherited land, but they didn't inherit. Just personality, inherit realty. Now the difference is that if they inherit realty, then the debt could be paid back then they have the obligation to pay the debt back. That's if they didn't inherit land, then the debt was the father's debt, and it's very difficult for the person to go and collect it from the inheritors. Amar Rabbi Yonasan says, if they inherited a little strip of land, then and he has a big debt, only part of the debt that he can collect is the value of that little bit of land that they have. Mali kardam, if it's a machat means a needle, kardam means like an axe or some sort of hatchet. Then goyva mali kardam, if it's a large piece of land, that's an expression. Then it means then the person can collect the full debt. Rabbi Yechanan says no. Rabbi Yechanan says no. There is a way of collecting a lot of money even from a small piece of land. What you do is you confiscate the property, then you offer the person to buy it back, and so he buys it back, and then you confiscate it again, and then I don't know how many times they're going to do this, but you would be able to collect another time, even though they said 1 second, we just bought it back in this. He said, yeah, but you found out me more money. So you can only collect from land. That's what we're learning here. That if there's a debt that's inherited, it only gets collected from land. But he's able to go back and collect it again, even though what would happen? Maybe he could do it like this. Maybe he could sell it. Could he sell it to someone else and then confiscate it from them, or does it have to go back to the original owner? You know what I'm asking? Is there a lien on the property until he gets paid back all his debts? I don't have the art scroll, but I bet that would be something that they would explain.
This is only from land that's inherited, right?
Right.
So-
They inherited that land. So, but he's able, even though they purchased it back, he's still able to collect it again. But I guess it's only with the inheritors. If the inheritors purchased it back, then he can reconfiscate it from them. Yeah, they can let him keep land and not purchase it back. But he wants to get more money. It's a very small piece of land, and he lent a lot of money, so he wants them to purchase it back, which they do, and then he confiscates it again, and then he gets the. Not only does he get the land, he also gets the money that they don't have to buy it back. No, he tricked them. Okay. And this was a story of Kitina de Abaya, small piece of land. In the case of Abaya, that Abaya allowed the person to do this. So Gemara and Ksubas, Rashi quotes. Tan Rabbanan, starting in a Brisa, Yisrael Shomer LaLevi. Let's see, Yisrael tells to a Levi. Meiser yesh lecha biyadi. I have meiser for you in my hands. Ein cheshen lechumas meiser shabai. We're not concerned about Trumas Meiser. Now, the way it would work is like this. There's a concept of Truma. Person grows as grain. He has to take off 2% and give it to the Kayan. Then he has to take off 10% and give it to the Levi. When the Levi receives it, he has to take off a tenth of the 10% that he just got, and he has to give that to a Kayan. That's called Trumas Meiser. Okay. We're going to learn a little bit about this now. But the first thing is when the Yisrael tells the Levi, I have Meiser, and we have no concern about Trumas Meiser that's in the Meiser that he has. Why not? The Gemara is this brisa is very unclear. However, Kur Meiser yesh biyadi. If I have a Kur is 30 sa, it's a large amount of Meiser. The first case, we didn't say how much he has. He just said, I have Meiser. So now he says, a Kur of Meiser. Then Cheshon Trumas Meiser, but then you have to suspect that the Trumas Meiser that's in it. Okay. Gemara says right away, it asks, my Kamar, what are you talking about? What is this? What is this discussion over here? You suspect the Trumas Meiser. Trumas Meiser you're not allowed to eat. Only a Kayan can eat it. It becomes problematic. Meiser you're allowed to eat. Anyone can eat Meiser. It just doesn't belong to you unless you're a Levi, or unless the Levi gave it to you. But but Trumas Meiser, even if the Kayan gives it to you, you can't eat it. Amar Abaya, so Abaya says, Hachi Kamar. This is what it means. We're going to have a bunch of attempts at explaining this brisa. It says, Yisrael Shamar LaLevi. Yisrael tells the Levi, Meiser yesh lecha biyadi v'helech damav. I've got some Meiser of yours, and I'm just going to eat it myself. So here's the money for it, because it belongs to the Levi. So instead of giving it to him, he says, I can't be bothered. Yeah, he just pays the value, and which is fine. He should be allowed to do that. There's no problem. But we don't suspect that at that moment, this is very interesting. At the moment when the Yisrael tells the Levi, I have Trumas Meiser of yours, he's just given it to him. He now belongs to the Levi. When he then pays for it, he has not acquired it back yet. Now the Levi still really owns it. When does the Yisrael own it? When he goes back to his house and moves it.
That's true.
So the transfer of money was not a full acquisition. Even though he just paid for it, it was his the whole time. Somehow it's much easier to go to the Levi than it is to get it back. Okay.
You're basically paying someone before you open up the box.
Yeah, but he grew it. It's his own grain. He's giving it to a Levi verbally by saying, I have Meiser, that's yours. And he wants to take it back, and he gives money to buy it back. So it really still belongs to the Levi until he gets back home. Now, when it becomes a Levi, just with that expression of, I have your Meiser.
So the fact that he has produce and you take like a tenth of that doesn't automatically make it.
He has to still give it.
He has to still.
to give it. But when he tells the guy that he has it of his, somehow that goes over to him. But to get it back, he has to make a kinyan on it. Now, we have a concern that maybe the Levi in his mind has other miser. He has other miser and he has this miser. Says, you know what? I don't have that miser anyway. It doesn't belong to the Yisrael yet. It's still mine. Let me just designate all of that Yisrael's miser as Trumas miser for all of the miser that I have. And that way, the person that just paid me for the miser that he never gave me, that now becomes forbidden.
Even the other 90%.
Yeah, even the other 90%, not just the 10% of the miser. Or the whole thing will become forbidden. And he keeps the money. So, but we don't suspect to that. We don't Yeah, well, it would be a tricky thing then what he's doing. But we don't suspect that he did that. Why not? Because he didn't tell him how much miser he has. He just said, I have miser. And he just gave him money. But that doesn't tell me how much he had. However, the next case is, he says, I have a core that's already gave a measurement. And here's the money. Then we suspect that maybe the Levi did that trick and turned it all into Chumas Meiser for other Meiser that he has, and now the Yisrael can't even eat it. The Gemara asks on Abaya, the Shakli Dami Mashli Chumas Meiser. Are we dealing with wicked people that they take money and then they turn it into Chumas Meiser? Is that really what's going on over here? That's what you're saying the case is. Elamar of Meshashia, rather, Elamar of Meshashi Breder Avidi. Meshashi Breder Avidi says that Hachikamar. This is what it means. Yisrael Shamal ben Levi, Anupsha. Yisrael tells to the Levi, Meiser la avicha biyadi v'helech damav. I had money. I had meiser that belonged to your father. I was going to give it to your father. He passed away already. But anyway, here's the money for it. You don't suspect that maybe the father had turned it into Chumas Maisa.
It's not chayiv to give in this case. The father, the person who is meant to give Meiser passes away. I would think.
Yeah, the person that's giving the Maisa is still alive. The Levi's father passed away. That he wanted to give it to his father. He says, now, we don't suspect that the father had made it into Chumas Meiser. We don't suspect that unless he told them the amount of what it is. Now, why now would this be all of a sudden permissible? Because the father never took money for it. He's giving the money to the son because he's the son who wants to keep it. So now we've just avoided that original problem. The original problem was that how could you say that the Levi takes the money and then turns it into Chumas Meiser? It's not a right behavior. Can't do that. So it must be that it was already the father's.
Oh yeah, that's what I was saying before.
And now if it's already the father never took money. He's giving money to the heir to buy it, but maybe we don't know what the father did. The father maybe made it into Chumas Meiser. So he would only have done that if he would have known the exact amount of how much there was there.
I was very skeptical of the premise that a person has to give over a certain amount, in this case a 10, to Levi, right? It's like, and then yes, once he, I guess, consecrates it, quote unquote, so to speak, like all of a sudden then it's as if he gives it over. It's not once he has the produce, he gives it over. Do you know what I mean?
So he should receive it before he starts consecrating it. That's what you're saying. He should have it in his possession.
Yeah.
Right.
That makes sense. Here,
well, right. Well, here it's saying that he would actually consecrate. Theoretically, could consecrate all of it, even though it's not in his possession. And how does he consecrate all of it? Because he uses it as, he says it's Chumas Meiser for other Meiser that I have. He got Meiser from other people as well. And he has to take a tenth of that, which he didn't. So he separates this whole thing to go for this other Meiser that he has.
By the way, on the subject of fathers and sons, happy Father's Day.
Dr. Science says Happy Father's Day because we're talking about fathers and sons. So, anything else? Anything to add to that?
Thank Hashem.
Oh, we thank Hashem that right.
That'll go into Divrei Rani.
Right.
I have
Okay.
a question. So,
Yeah.
so when he gives the money, and now does the Levi have to give Trumas Meiser like on what he had for a little bit and sold? Like he would have to have some other Trumas Meiser, some other
I don't think so.
produce? No.
I don't think so. I think only if when he would come to eat that, I think he would have to do that.
But he sold it. Like he just get the money, right?
The purchaser has to make sure that this Trumas Meiser has been removed. Now, the real halacha is that when you start buying and selling, you start taking Meiser more than what you need. What the halacha is that when someone buys something, he's supposed to fix it, and he's supposed to take the Meiser right away before he sells it. Here, the guy's just doing it right away, so he's not getting a chance. But he doesn't have to go now. It's sold already. He doesn't have to go because he owned it once and take Meiser from it. I don't think he has to.
So it's on the Israelite to make sure that Trumas Meiser is taken.
Yeah, the Israelite would have to do that. Yeah, that's what it appears. The only problem now, where we're holding right now, is that we're toying with this possibility that maybe the father had turned it into Trumas Meiser, and there was nothing wrong with that. The father never got money for it, and it was the father's. So the only thing is, there's a little bit of a problem, because what we're doing is we're suspecting that the father did something not 100% correct. Now, even though he never received money for it, there's another problem. You're supposed to have the produce right in front of you when you separate it. It's called mukaf. Mukaf means like compared. It means it's right there. It's supposed to be right there. Now, the reason for that is that because if you're going to take Meiser on something that's not right in front of you, or you're going to separate Meiser on something that's not right in front of you, Trumas Meiser, you don't know what's going on over there. Maybe it's already spoiled in this. It should, when you do the Meiser, it's supposed to be right in front of you. Now you're saying that maybe the father took the Meiser from what that existed in someone else's property, and he separated it as Trumas Meiser on all his other produce. That's not the correct way of doing it. You're really supposed to have it in front of you when you do that separation.
Is that separation part of the kingdom?
No, the Kenyan was, he tells him, your father has Meiser by me. So he probably told the father also. But now he says, but now I want to buy it, and here's the money. So he doesn't, the Levi owns it until he gets back home and starts lifting it or pulling it or whatever.
Can you do that on Shabbos?
Possibly if it's edible.
It's not separating this from.
Oh, on Shabbos itself, you're not allowed to take Meiser, not allowed to
So it's
separate
just
Meiser.
one-
Right. Shouldn't be handling the money on Shabbos either. Elam Ravashi, monopoly money. Elam Ravashi, kids don't use monopoly money on Shabbos. Oh, really? That's what it says.
Could you use Monopoly?
Theoretically, yeah, but we teach the kids not to play Monopoly on Shabbos.
Oh,
Other games.
Someone told me his kids were playing Monopoly for a whole week. But how this game lasts so long? Someone's got to win. So like, how does it? I said, no, we made a gemach. Okay. Elam Ravashi has another shot. Tachi Kamar. Ben Yisrael Jamal Levi Kacham Liyaba. It's going the other way. Now the Yisrael is telling the Levi, my father told me, Meiser Lechabiyadi. My father told me that he has Meiser of yours. A Meiser La'avicha Biyadi. Or he has Meiser of your father's. we suspect that maybe there's Trumas Meiser in it. Even the like kids, they have Masakin Le Balabayas. Since he didn't tell him, now it's really a totally different story. We're not talking about the recipient of the Meiser doing some trick, turning everything into Trumas Meiser. No, we're talking about now the one that's giving the Meiser says to the Levi, he says, I have Meiser of yours, and my father had Meiser of yours. Now, the catch over here by saying my father had Meiser of yours is because since the father passed away, we have a rule that whenever someone, a chaver, someone that's trusted on Meiser, passes away, whatever he left in his possession was already fixed. You wouldn't leave it in a way, in a state where someone could end up stumbling because of this. So when there's Meiser, really he's supposed to give it to the Levi, and then the Levi is supposed to separate the Trumas Meiser. But over here, because it was in his possession, maybe the father himself, before giving it to the Levi, had separated the Trumas Meiser on behalf of the Levi, because maybe it was hanging around too long, or whatever. So if he says, I have just a measurement of Meiser, and he doesn't tell him how much, so then it wasn't measured. So then we say that it wasn't fixed. But Kor Meiser L'Chabiyadi, if he says, I have a core of Meiser, a Kor Meiser L'Avicha Biyadi, or from your father, I had a core of Meiser, it's the giver's own father saying about the recipient's father or the recipient. Ein Chayshon Trumas Meiser, by giving the kids to Kuni Tachnim Balabayas, we'll assume that the giver of the Meiser has already fixed it and taken out the Trumas Meiser. Gemara asks, does he have the rights to do that? It's supposed to go to the Levi. The Levi is supposed to do that. He's not supposed to do that. Gemara says he actually does have the rights to do that. Why? The Gemara explains, Abba Elazar ben Gamla, it's the opinion of Abba Elazar ben Gamla. The Tanya was taught in a Braisa. Abba Elazar ben Gamla, talking about, and it's actually this week's Parsha Shteirach, talking about that the Levi also has to give Meiser. It says that's going to be considered your Truma. Levi has to give Meiser of the Meiser that he receives. That's going to be considered like Truma. That's what the pasuk says. And it says it's considered like your Truma, Trumaschem, your Trumais, which means that it's a plural. State Trumas Akasam Medaber on top of 31. We're talking about two Trumas, Achas Truma Gedela, Achas Trumas Meiser, that the person can take two Trumas. Okay. Well, so far we didn't get to that. So far we're just saying that there are two Trumas. Now, but there's a comparison here between regular Truma and the Trumas Meiser. Achas Trumas Gedela, Achas Trumas Meiser. Same shit Truma Gedela tells by Machshava, Kach Trumas Meiser tells by Machshava. When it comes to Meiser, you're supposed to measure it. Like Meiser Behema, you count it. Regular Meiser, you have to measure how much. When it comes to Truma, you estimate. Because really, even one kernel could exempt the whole silo. So what they said is you're supposed to give 2%. So, but you do that with estimation. You don't actually measure all the whole silo. You just estimate how much 2% would be. So when it comes to Trumas Meiser, even though there is a designated amount of a tenth, but you don't actually measure that amount, you still do that with a estimation. Just like the Balabayas can separate Truma Gedela, which is the first Truma. The Balabayas can also separate Trumas Meiser, and this is Abba Elazar ben Gamla that holds us. And that's why we're saying that could be that the father had actually separated the Trumas Meiser because he's been holding on to this Meiser. He doesn't want anyone to stumble. So he really totally fixed it. Okay.
But this wouldn't be discussed like in the price. Like here, I'm buying your Meiser, 100 core. Is it 100 or is it 90? Like would be a big difference.
Right. I guess when you don't have the Meiser yet in your hands, and the guys could really give it to someone else, so you can't be picky. And he says, "Look, if you don't want that to sell it to me, he already gave it to me." That's a good point. You can't really retract. I don't think. Once he says, "I have your Meiser," it actually belongs to him. When does it belong to him? Does it belong to him when he tells him that or when he hands him the money? Rashi had an expression in here. That when the Levi receives the money, that's actually when the Levi acquires it. Now, the receiving of the money is when he should not acquire it. That should be the time when it goes back to the purchaser. But anyway, but that's not the way it's written. The way it's written is that when he says, here is money for your meiser, I have meiser, here's the money for it. The Levi is actually acquiring the meiser while he's receiving the money. Yeah.
And that would explain it.
What is that? Oh, yeah, but it doesn't belong to him. Okay, there's a big discussion here when it says thought. What does the thought actually do? Does the thought separate it and allow you to eat the other things, or does the thought create the consecration on the truma? It's a big discussion. How is it written over there? It's separated by thought. It doesn't. I don't know if it's consecrated by thought. Separation of truma is valid. Question is the truma consecrated? When you say separation is valid, that just means that you're allowed to eat the remainder. I think you have to say something. You have to do an action. You have to do some sort of action. You can acquire it on his behalf. You can take it on his behalf. But here, yeah, but that you did an action. Here you're not even doing anything. You're just walking around your house and you're just thinking of something. It doesn't belong to that person. Together with an action, it will go to that person.
What about people?
Figgle is thoughts that you have while you're doing one of the avodas.
But you're doing this action. And you're doing this
Right.
one
Well, over
other.
there by karbanos, by it's different. The thought infected, but over here you're not doing any action. You're just thinking. This is a discussion the Rebbe had with his father. They had letters back and forth. Does the truma become consecrated just by thinking, or is it just enough that you're able to eat the remainder because it's been designated, but it's not consecrated?
What was the maskana?
They didn't come to a maskana. The Rebbe held that it does become consecrated. His father said it's totally not true. It's like vehemently opposed to it.
You know,
There's no
it's
such thing, and he quotes them different.
If you go back to Tanya, just from the last few days, the whole concept that the machshava by Hashem is the maaseh, but we can't do that. And here we're dealing with the closest thing we come to, like a
Creative.
maaseh Hashem, to creating something. You can see the gray line
Right,
where are we doing something like Hashem or not?
right, right. Very interesting.
Yeah. If you look at it from that perspective.
Okay, now we have a new Mishnah. It says, "Haminiach peres liyasmafir shleim truma u'maisrus." Someone leaves fruit. He has a pile of fruit. That what he's going to do with this fruit is that he's going to eat other fruit, relying on that the fruit that he left in the pantry over there. That's going to be truma and meiser for the other fruit that he's going to eat. Let's say he's somewhere, I don't know, he's not home, and he has fruit that he has to separate from. He says, well, I have fruit at home. That fruit that's at home should be the truma and meiser for this. So when I get home, I'll deal with it. So that way, right now, he's allowed to eat whatever he has because he's separated truma and meiser. The only problem is that maybe it doesn't exist. He thought it was there.
Like he doesn't have to leave it necessarily truma like attached in this field.
No, truma is only after you harvest. After you harvest. It's already inside, so it has to be chayav in truma. It has to be already ready for truma to be taken. And so you designate all of those fruits as this truma. Okay, now the concern here is that maybe it doesn't exist. Meiser, but he has the same, he can do that, but there's Meiser. So Moisli is Meiser Sheni, and he also has money that he's going to separate his Meiser Sheni. He's going to redeem his Meiser Sheni with that money. And he says that that money that I have in my drawer should redeem this Meiser Sheni that I want to eat right now.
So you're saying maybe he left, like he's out of town, he knows, or he thinks he knows that he has
Right, some fruits.
truma at home, but
Well, it's not.
he stole it or something.
It's he has fruits at home that he's going to make it into truma on behalf of the fruits that he's eating now.
Okay.
So
It could be all produce, not necessarily.
it would be you're supposed to take truma from exactly the same thing that you're eating that you want.
Grain.
So if it's grain, he takes grain. If it's this, yeah, it has to be from the same item. You can separate those things as if they exist because you thought they existed and they were always existing before you left. If they're lost, then then you have to go back 24 hours and say, he gets back home, he says, oh my gosh, they're not here. My whole trip, I've been separating trumas mice. He has to imagine that over the last 24 hours, it did not exist, but before that it did exist. That's one of the pshatim we'll see. The Gemara, there's another pshat in the Gemara. Okay, that's one of the pshat. So the 24 hours back, it didn't exist because we found it now, not existing. That's the words of Rabbi Lazar. Rabbi Lazar is Rabbi Lazar ben Shemua. He is a student of Rabbi Akiva. He's the one that you don't hear about a lot. Like the Rashbi, you hear about Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Meir. Those are very common. This is Rabbi Lazar ben Shemua. He's the other one. Rabbi Yehuda says, "B'shleisha prakim baitkim asayayim."
Was he ready at Rabbi Yehuda?
That could be. That could be.
One guy.
So Rabbi Yehuda says there's 3 times that you have to check the wine to make sure if you're going to be separating truma, you have to make sure that the wine is good. You can't separate vinegar on behalf of wine. Say that that bottle of vinegar should be truma because of this wine, even though it started off the same, it has to be the same. They both have to be good. So you have to actually examine the wine to make sure that it's still good before you can separate it. So when do you do that? 3 times of the year. You bake in a sayayin, the kidam shel motzi achag, with the east wind that comes after Sukkot. When that blows, you have to check the wine to see if you can still use it as truma. Vaitzah smadar, and when the blossoms fall off and leave the bud of the fruit, the small tiny fruit, that's the smother. Smother is like these very tiny grapes, very undeveloped. B'shas knisas mayim b'baiser. When the grapes are a little bit larger, you do the same thing. Different pshatim over here. Okay, so 3 times a year you have to actually examine to make sure that your your wine is good. My meisleis, what were you talking about, Rabbi Lazar, when you said that you have to suspect 24 hours? Meisleis means from time to time, which means from the time it is today till the time tomorrow, the time yesterday. The mark on the clock, 24 hours back.
How can someone presume that that he has Meiser if he has to actually physically count and see and designate a 10th of that Meiser?
So what he
has to.
What he'd be doing is like this. He says, I have 10 boxes at home, grain, barrels of grain. Now I have 10 barrels with me over here. So the ones over here I need, but I have one of those at home. It should be Meiser. One on the left. Okay. Then another few days go by. He says, okay, now the second one from the left should be Meiser. And then he goes, so as time he keeps using that pile that he has at home to be his Meiser. He doesn't want to carry that around with him. But so that's going to be the Meiser. When he gets home, he'll give it away. He'll give it to the lady.
Well, just one box out of the 10.
Well, it's 1 out of 10, and then it's the second box, and as time, he keeps
Oh.
designating more and more as Meiser. The question is, when he gets home, they're not there. So do we say that when he designated it, it wasn't there? Or do we say when he designated it was there and it just got lost now? He lost the Meiser, so that's what the Levi's lost.
every year. Is that general?
No, he's designated as he's eating grain. He has to, every time he eats something, he has to make sure that Meiser was removed.
Every time he eats anything?
He goes to the store and he buys an apple. He has to separate the Meiser, but he doesn't have a Levi with him. So he says, okay, so the Meisers, I have apples at home. One of them was going to be Meiser. Yeah.
That was more like an agricultural farming.
Yeah, it should be agricultural because when it should be all taken care of right when it comes into the house and ready to eat.
Yeah.
But not necessarily so. It could be you bought it from an Amaret, you bought it from someone that didn't take Meiser, and once it's sold, it should have already been fixed.
Right.
But whatever the
So
case is.
I guess they have textures that
Yeah.
separated from this.
Yeah, they had a chaver. They had someone that was trusted and people that weren't trusted. Okay, so what does it mean that you have to go back and assume that because it's not here now, 24 hours ago it wasn't there? So Rabbi Yochanan Meslei Shel Bedika. You go work backwards, 24 hours back from when you examined it now, and you see that it's not there. You have to assume that it wasn't there 24 hours ago. Rabbi Lazar ben Antigna saying Mishum Rabbi Lazar ben Yanai. Rabbi Lazar ben Antigna. It says the name of Rabbi Lazar ben Yanai. There's a lot of Elazars here. And this is all about what Rabbi Lazar said. Rabbi Lazar ben Shemua said, right? There's 3 Elazars just to explain this. It's Meyeslei Shel Anacha. It's exactly the opposite. Only the first 24 hours that you knew it was there, do we consider it there. All the rest of the time, we don't even know at all. It's look, we check now, it's not there. It probably wasn't there yesterday, the day before, all the way back till the only thing we'll assume is that the first 24 hours when you thought it was there, it was after that, it was lost. All the Meiser that you thought you were taking, you never took. You actually owe Meiser. What you were separating never existed. And it was taught in the Mishnah. Mavdu, if it got lost, there is a cheshesh meisleis. You have to suspect from 24 hours, according to the opinion of Rabbi Yochanan, that says that it's 24 hours from the searching, which means you go backwards 24 hours. Then shopper makes sense. You have to suspect from 24 hours. But if it's 24 hours from the time that you set it up, that you saw it last, and 24 hours and on, then it's not. You have to suspect from 24 hours. It should have said suspect until 24 hours. Not from 24 hours, but until 24 hours. Because Cheshesh Me'esleis means that from now I suspect backwards 24 hours. But Cheshesh Ad Me'esleis means I would suspect until the first 24 hours. And it didn't use the word Ad. It says Me'esleis, which means that I suspect only these 24 hours. There's a question on the wording of the Mishnah. It says, oh, that's a big problem. Kasha, leave that as a question. The problem, his interpretation of the Mishnah doesn't really fit. Rabbi Lazar, this is the words of Rabbi Lazar. Rabbi Lazar says, Chalukan alav chaveir aval Rabbi Lazar. And we have 2 Rabbi Lazars here. Rabbi Lazar ben Pedas, who is an Amira, friend of Rabbi Yochanan, in the Gemara, he says that Rabbi Lazar ben Shemua, his friends argue on him. Rabbi Lazar ben Shemua in the Mishnah, his friends argue on him. They had the same name, so it gets a little confusing here. The Tanan, it was taught in the Mishnah. Mikvah shenimdat, let's say someone measured a mikvah, v'nimtza chaser. Turns out, it wasn't kosher. Whoever went in that mikvah, you have to go call them up, tell them we're very sorry to come back because the mikvah didn't have enough water when you went in it. So, everyone that went into that mikvah is not kosher until we know the last time it was checked and it was kosher. There's a big problem with like when someone shechts. So they shecht chickens like more and more and more. And
Do they get a
then,
refund? Do they get the refund of their entrance fee?
Yeah, they get a refund. And then they check the knife and they see that the knife is not kosher. It was kosher when he started, but somewhere along the way, it must have hit the neck or something, a bone, it became not kosher. So how many chickens back do you go to say when it was?
So about which kids I know they sharpen after every.
And it's impossible that they can't check it in between everyone. They have these things, they're doing like 400 an hour, they can't be checking it. They probably have to check it every time they feel that they hit something, like the neck, or they hit something, or they check it, like they stop at intervals to make sure there's not too much of a loss. You have to check it. But then it could be probably that they coming in, I think even someone else holds it for the shofet, and he doesn't even have to do anything. He just maybe he holds it, but they have it.
Rabbi Gordon joke or something. It's like, oh, what does your father do? Oh, he's a shochet. What's that? It's like a slaughter. It's like, get away from me or something.
The ritual slaughter.
How far, like, do they go on the, and they see the last measure?
Yeah. No, then it was never kosher. It had to be measured at one point.
Did they matter if it was like months ago?
Yeah, well, months ago, so it would say that it was only kosher from months ago, and then since the last time it was checked, it's not kosher. We assume that the mikveh, the water drained out or it evaporated from the right away. Well, that's totally different than what Rebbe Lazar holds, because Rebbe Lazar said that it's only no good from the last 24 hours. Here we say that it goes back to the last time it was checked. Okay. Kumar says, Pshita de Chalukin. I don't need Rebbe Lazar to tell me, Rebbe Lazar ben Pedas to tell me that the author of this Mishnah clearly argues on Rebbe Lazar. You don't have to tell me, that's so obvious. Well, no, I could have learned that maybe the pshat in this Mishnah is that how far back do I go with the mikveh to say that it was no good? I go back 24 hours. Maybe that's what it means. I have to go back 24 hours. No, you go back. Rebbe Lazar is telling me that you go back until the last time it was checked. Okay. Rabbi Yehuda says there's 3 times a year they have to check the wine. Tana was taught in a brayso. It's not just when he said, when do you check the wine? You said when the east wind blows, you have to check to make sure it's still good. If you're going to be using it for truma, it's not just the east wind blows after Sukkot, but it has to be that Sukkot that year fell out after the 22nd of September. When's autumn? When's fall?
The equinox.
When's I think it's September 22nd or 23rd or something.
It's usually the 21 or
22. So it has to be that Sukkot that year was already after the tkufa. Then you have to check. Otherwise, beforehand, you still don't have to check it. It has to be the new tkufa, the new season. Okay. End of the summer.
Tishray's fall and
Tishray's fall, right? Fall. Tanya was taught in the brayso.
we don't know.
And the solar calendar, it's set. It should be set. It has to be set. So the point that no, it has to be set. The solar calendar has to have the seasons accurate, because even the Alisa Shachar, the sunrise sunset is exact on the solar calendar. You never need to change. The reason we're changing each one changed because of the location, but sunrise sunset, when they put it in the newspaper or something, sunrise sunset, does it say sunrise sunset in the newspaper? What does that mean? Oh, sunrise sunset. That's they don't have to look it up every year. it's always like that, right? Yeah. So I remember there was in the show in Rhode Island, they had this old thing to tell you like sunrise, sunset. It was 100 years old, the card that said the same thing. Yeah, because so the seasons go with the
6:29 a.m. sunrise, 8:14 p.m. sunset. Right.
I know, but now go back a year ago. What's today? The 20th? Today? Today's the 20th or the 19th? Today's the 18th? Oh, the 18th. So if you go back, last year would be the same time, which means basically that we're the same heat level, the same, it should be, the seasons go with sunrise, sunset. So it's the difference in, because of the axis, right?
Yeah, like in the lunar calendar.
Lunar calendar,
Change.
it's always moving. That's where you have to add in a month to try to keep it. Oh, okay. So it's a day. Yeah, that's what you're talking about. You're talking about the day. There's a day, yeah, every 4 years or something. They add in a day. Oh.
March, and then sometimes on the calendar it says, oh, beginning of spring, and sometimes it doesn't.
It's a good
Oh.
thing your birthday's not February 29th, because sometimes it wouldn't be there at all.
I'll be very young.
So when is the beginning of spring? March 21st?
22nd.
See, that's why I think it's sometimes.
It could be it's 21st or 22nd. It could be okay. So that switches. That it could be 1 day switch, but that's whatever. Okay. Tanya Rabbi Yehuda Aimer. Rabbi Yehuda says begimel prakim meichanes at 4. I think the fall is also 22nd or 23rd of September. So it's like one of those. The 3 times that the grain is sold. When is it sold? Fnei Hazera, before people need to plant. B'shas Hazera, while they're planting, someone could run out. There's planting season, right? So it was a whole season. And B'preis Pesach, and 15 days before Pesach, probably sold it for matzah. There's 3 times that you sell wine. Preis Pesach, before 15 days before Pesach. Preis means split. It means you divide a month in half. Preis Atzeres, 15 days before Shavuos. Preis Chag, and 15 days before Sukkot. It's when they sold wine. The Shemen, when was oil sold? Atzeres Veilach, from Sukkot from Shavuos and on. Atzeres Shavuos. The Mai Helchasa. What is this relevant for? Why do you have to tell me this as a halacha? You go to the store, see what they're selling. It doesn't have to be a halacha. There's Amarava, Vitemer of Papa. Rava says, and some say it was Rav Papa. You see, Rav Papa and Rava were very close. They were teacher-student. A lot of times Rav Papa would say things we didn't know if he said it or if his teacher said it. So this is very common to say. Rava said, and some say that it was Rav Papa that said. It says L'shutrim, talking about partners. Talking about partners owned grain, partners owned wine, partners owned oil. One of the partners went and sold. If it was off season, then he needed to get permission from the other partner. But if it was on season, then no matter what the price he sold it for, the other partner has to accept it because that's the time of selling. If he sold it off season, other partner could complain and say, you could have sold it for a higher price. You owe me money.
You gotta hear this answer. This is when we go to 20th and 21st of spring equinox. Spring arrived on the 21st of March during most of the 20th century. But the event slides earlier and earlier during the 4 years, the Gregorian calendar cycle. The first 21st equinox was in 2007, meaning before that was March 20th, right? Even if we use Greenwich time as many almanacs do, the next part. Now, the 21st is gone for the rest of our lives, unless you believe in reincarnation and want to check back in the 22nd century. This year, the March equinox lands on the 20th. So now we're back to the 20th, but this man of Mashiach might be back to 21st.
Hey, how's it moving though?
Yeah, how does it move? What makes it move?
I think it said it had to do with the calendar,
Yeah, because
the Gregorian calendar.
365 days, right? And I think it's like 365 and a quarter. Yeah, exactly.
But that's why every 4 years they add that day.
We added in February.
February
So that's
29th.
Well, the
Quarter every 4
Gregorian
years.
calendar was adding in, was making a leap year also on every 100 years if it's divisible by 4. something like that.
We have to have a talk with the
That's right. The
That's
the
what-
Julian calendar, I think, had
We go by the truth.
every 4 years. But then the Gregorian calendar added in one more leap year. Okay. Mikan ve'elach mai. What happens after that? Amar Rava kol yom perkio. After that time, then every time is you can always sell. After these times arrive, you can always sell the wine or grape or grain or whatever. Go to pasuk. Bikas reach hashemesh. We mentioned the east wind. Bikas reich hashemesh was when the sun shone. Vayimen alikim ruach kadem charishas. Hashem caused a east wind, powerful east wind, charishas. My charishas, what does it mean, charishas? Violent, maybe. Amar Rabbi Yehuda says, B'shashem and Hasheves, I said, Tlamet Tlam Bayam. When this east wind blows, why is it called charishas? Because it's like plowing. And you look over at the ocean, when it looks like furrows in the ocean, because the waves are going out. It looks like, that's what it means. Amar Rabbi Yehuda, okay, that's Amalei Rabbah. So Rabbah says to Rabbi Yehuda, Ihachi, are you for real? Is this so? Hainu Diksiv, is this the meaning of the pasuk? Batach Hashem Shal Reishenu Vayisalaf, that Yaina, that the sun was shining on Yaina and he fainted from the heat. So what does that have to do with the ocean? Things in the ocean. So why would that pasuk be telling me about what the wind does in the ocean when it wants to tell us that it was hot? It's different. What it really means is chareshes means that it's quiet, like a cheresh, like is like deaf and dumb and like mute. When it blows, when the east wind blows, it quiets all the other winds. Other winds are cooling, or maybe it can be cooling, but this quiets them all down because this one blows. It's only hot. That your clothing are warm when the south wind is quiet.
It's like in the hurricane. All of a sudden it's silent right before all of a sudden.
Yeah. Oh, maybe that's what it means. Like it quiets everything down, like the eye of the storm.
I read somewhere that the sun rays like cut like the waves of sound. That's why like at night, like the sound travel longer.
Oh, really? The light affects the sound.
Sun rays, like it cuts like the sound. The wave sound. I don't know what source. I always read the source. But
Does that make sense, Professor? It says that the sound is disrupted by the sun, by the rays of the sun. That's why at night you hear the ocean clear. Is it because of the light? Does the light affect the sound waves?
Yes.
He's got to Google it. Could look it up.
I'm
Okay.
looking it up.
Could be it affects the density of what the medium
Right.
means, and that affects the sound, not the rays of the sound.
Oh, it's the
medium
medium
that
of.
heats up the air, or
Oh, so it travels different. Uh-huh.
Well, barometric pressure affects sunlight and actual times. I say that because there was an incident in Los Angeles. Somebody had a child born bein hashmashos on Friday,
Uh-huh.
and they couldn't figure it out, and they wrote to Shlomo Miller in Toronto, I guess. And before he would answer them, he asked for the coordinates of the hospital and the barometric pressure at the time.
Wow.
So from that, I assume that it can affect the light in the day.
Wow. It's so interesting.
the barometric pressure means the amount of density of the
Right.
air.
Which would be how cold it is, not how, right. It's more dense the colder it is, right?
Right.
It's like in the pool, you can scream under the pool. It's you hear things different. The sound travels different to the. Oh, and the helium. That's what they do. The kids, they take the helium balloons and then they talk and it sounds like different. That's because sound travels different through helium than it does. It doesn't change anything in your voice. It's just change the way sound travels. It sounds, yeah, the sound travels different through helium than it does through oxygen. Okay, Amar Rav Tachlifa bar Rav Chisda, Amar Rav Chisda. Rav Tachlifa bar Rav Chisda says the name of Rav Chisda. Emasai begadecha chamen, when are your clothing warm? B'shas shehishket eretz midarim, when at the time when the south is quiet, south wind probably. Because when I think the east wind blows, it quiets down the south wind. Is that what it means? Is it when the south wind blows? When the south wind blows, it quiets all the other winds. Oh, okay.
That makes sense.
Yeah, but we were talking about the whole time the east wind. So
Says both. When the east wind blows, it overpowers all the other winds. And the coolness of the south wind is not felt.
no, yeah, it's the east wind. When the east wind blows, it quiets the south wind, and the south wind would have been cooling. And the east wind, and because the east wind's so strong, it takes away the coolness from the south wind. Stops the south. That's at least that's what I'm understanding from Rashi. Okay.
No, I'm not saying from Rashi, it's because it affects all the other winds. It overpowers all the other winds.
Which
And the
one?
cool-
Which wind? The east wind. The east wind affects the other winds.
All right. And the coolness of the south wind is not felt.
Right.
So
Right.
I'm looking
Right.
at that secondary to its effect on all the other winds. Or is it also primary effect of the south wind cooling?
The
That's the
south wind.
question.
The south wind can't cool because the east wind overpowers all of the other winds.
Yeah, but when the east wind blows, is the effect on the south wind direct or secondary to its effect on all the other winds? Depends on where you put the comma in Rashi.
I think, here in the note, it talks about the Rashi and Tosfot, and then it talks about the word tomorrow. One is referring to the south one, and one is referring to
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah, we were correct. Okay. Rav Huna, Rav Chisda v'Yasvi. Rav Huna and Rav Chisda were sitting. Chalaf Azel Geniva alayu. So Geniva goes and walks by. Geniva we had the earlier ones. Amar Chad Lechabri. One of them said to his friend, doesn't tell us Rav Huna or Rav Chisda, Nikamikame de Bar Uryanhu. Let's get up for him because he's a Ben Torah. Uryan is like a Raisa. He's a sage. We should stand up. He's coming by. Amle Yidach. The other one says, Mikami Palga Nekam, in front of the quarrelsome person, quarrelsome person. We're going to stand up. Meanwhile, Geneva shows up. Amalahu, he says, what are you involved in? Amalei Baruchis, we're talking about the winds. Amalahu, Hachi Amarav Chanam Barav Amarav. Rav Chanam Barav said the name of Rav. Daled Ruchis Menashes B'chol Yom. There's 4 winds that blow every day. And the north wind blows together with all of them. This is a calm wind. It's not hot. It's a pleasant wind. It's not hot. It's not cold. And if not for the north wind, the world couldn't exist if not for the north wind. And the south wind is the worst. Mali ben Nates, if not for the hawk, Ma'amida that stops the wind, then the whole world would be destroyed. Is it from your wisdom, from your understanding, that the hawk flies, he spreads his wind from Teman, from the south? Okay. What happened with Geneva? Geneva we had earlier in the Masechta on page Zion over here. Mar Ukva.
What, you keep on saying pork. Here it's just saying nates.
Nates.
Why
What is a
isn't there
nate?
nates a chum?
No, it's not. It's nates is either an angel or like a bird, or
Oh,
it's a
something
or
else.
it's a nates. That's a nates lemineo. Nates is one of the birds in the Torah. Anyway, Mar Ukva sent a message to Rebbe Lozer. Says there's people that are really bothering me, but I could get them into trouble. Should I get them into trouble with the government? So he said he wrote him a pasuk. He put sirtat. Remember we were discussing sirtat, scoring the lines. He wrote him a pasuk. He says, no, don't bother. Anyway, just go to the base medrash early and stay late, and everything is going to go away. Anyway, as soon as he said that, Geneva got imprisoned. He left in a collar. Okay. Anyway, so apparently Geneva was arguing with Marukva, who was the Reish Galusa. So one of these Ravuna or Chizda is saying, "Oh no, he's quarrelsome," because okay. Rava Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak Abiyasvi. Rava and Rav Nachman Yitzchak are sitting. Abicholaf also Rav Nachman Bar Yaakov Yosef Begohar Kedadava. Rav Nachman Bar Yaakov passed by, and Rav Nachman Bar Yaakov was sitting in a golden, like what do they have in China? What's this? They carry the people.
Some sort of carriage.
Yeah, some sort of carriage. Part of Salah Sarbala the Karti, and he has draped over him was like this, maybe some sort of blanket. What is it? Green cloak. Good. Karti is green. Karti means leeks, but leeks are green. It's a color. What came first, the orange color or the orange? What came
It's
first?
really green.
No, I'm
Great.
asking why did it get the name orange? Is because of the color, or they gave the color because of the orange fruit?
I thought it was because of the nut. Banana, orange.
Okay, so Rava goes over to see Rav Nachman Bar Yaakov. He's in the carriage. Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak lo yasel gabe. Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak doesn't go over to see him. Amar Dilma mi'inshi debei Reish Galusin. He didn't know who it was. He says it must have been someone from the Reish Galusins in that fancy carriage limousine. Rava tzarich lo, ana le tzarich na lo. Rava needs the Reish Galusa. I don't need the Reish Galusa. He doesn't have important business with that. He was studied Torah, I guess. Well, but then he sees, no, that wasn't just a carriage. That wasn't just a limousine. There was an important person there. It was Rav Nachman Bar Yaakov. He goes to him. Gali Ladari. Rav Nachman Bar Yaakov shows on his arm, and that must have been like sunburnt or something. He said, Amar Shadia Nashiv, like the demon was blowing on it, which is referring to over here, the east wind. That's how we're getting into this. Amar Rava says, Hachi Amar Rav says that Isha Mapelas, by the east wind is so bad a woman could miscarry because of it. Shmuel Amar Fila Margla Shabiyam, Magolia Shabiyam Markevis by. Even the pearl in the sea could begin to rot because of the heat of the east wind. Even a woman that has inside of her the sperm from a man already starts to rot, and she won't end up conceiving. Amar Rav Nachman. Now this is a little confusing here. Amar Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak is not the one in the carriage. Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak says, at least according to this version that we have, Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak says, "Ushloshtan mikra echad darshu." I could tell all of these. Bar Yaakov was in the carriage. Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak was not in the carriage. He says, all of these are from the same pasuk. What's the pasuk? Pasuk in Hosea. It says, Kihu bein achim yafri, yavei kadim, ruach Hashem midbar oila, v'yevish mekayrei gomer. What does it mean, yevish mekayrei? It dries up the source. Zu mekayr shel isha. This is the source, the uterus inside a woman. The Yecher of Mayane, and it destroys the spring. The Shechvaser Shab Meisha. This is referring to the sperm that's inside the woman. Who Yeshasa Oitzer Kol Kli Chemda. This is the pasuk and etc. that we didn't have. It's how do they translate that? Spoils the treasures of all the desired vessels. Zumagol Shabiyam. This is the pearl in the sea. Amar Rava then says, Adisurahu, the Dayak Kroi. This person is clearly from Surah because he's so good with psukim. Now, I mentioned this before that. Some scholar was saying that the people in the south knew the psukim better than they did in the north. Surah was in the south. So they studied, they had a different style of studying, and they would study the psukim better. So they would, like the north, both the north of Bavel and the north of Eretz Yisrael, this fellow claimed, both of them, they knew psukim better than the south of Bavel and south of Eretz Yisrael did the psukim better than the north of Bavel.
So I think I heard also that like the Kutim knew the Torah Shabbat.
Right.
Like the real time.
Rabbi,
Right.
just by the way, I looked up the orange. So the orange came first. The color used to be called yellow red.
Oh,
The orange was called naranja. So it dropped the N in Spanish and French or whatever. It became orange.
so the orange came before the color orange, according to Dr. Stein.
That's it.
He read it in.
Does anybody on the shir know if today there's a view that there's a difference between, say, the east wind and the west wind? We've been learning all these bad things about the east wind here. Is that a modern view?
Yeah. I don't know the I don't know how it works.
Mhm.
There's like a wind that happens every couple of years, but we're supposed to get more hurricanes because it comes
Like the El Nino.
Yeah.
But it's really like the west one.
Uh-huh. I don't know.
The winds will also be the same, and depends on your location, right? If you're in Bavel or in Israel.
Location. Also because the south is going to be cooler if you're on the equator, but if you're north of the equator, then it's going to get hotter. That's the south one. Right? Yeah, it must be this was being said in Bavel. Bavel is probably below the equator, south of the equator. So the south winds are going to be cooler. The north is going to be the warmer. It's coming from the equator. No? I think so. Let's take a look at the map. Israel is a little bit above, but I think Bavel would have been. I don't know. You want to pass me your book? The Dr. Stein, that little book. I just want to look at the map.
There's a song that talks about the summer winds.
I think they're at the same level.
Oh, you think so?
Yeah, I'm looking at this map from the guide.
Yeah. Oh well. Oh well.
Equator, I think every wind is warm.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Now he says, Maihi Beinachin Yafri. What does it mean between the brothers? It's Yafri. Amar Rava says, Afilu Sufsa Bekufina Demara Rafia. What it means is that even a handle in the axe gets loose. I guess when it warms up, it loosens. But Yosef Amar Afilu Sichsa Bedafna Rafia. Even a peg in the wall gets loose. Rav Acha Bar Yaakov Amar Afilu Kanya Bekufsa Rafia. Even the basket, even a reed in the basket gets loose. Everything gets loose in the heat. What happens in the summer? The lines, the telephone wires.
The heat makes
Right.
sense.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Again. Let's start the new parak. Hashliach get liyashtei. Someone sends a get to his wife. And he runs to catch up to the messenger. He sends a get with the shliach. And then he backtracks. He runs to catch up to the shliach to stop him. Or he sends a shliach afterwards to stop him. And he says
the person who gives the get goes back to the shul.
the get he sends it out, and then he chases after him
Okay.
to tell him. He says, "Get shenasati lach batalu. The get that I gave you was nullified. Hareze batal. He nullified it. Caught it in time. Let's say he doesn't know which route the messenger went, so he runs to the wife. He says, "You're about to receive a get, but it's not a good get. I nullified it, so it's batal." Either he runs or the shliach runs. But if she already received the get, and he runs in and he says, "No. It's too late. Can't be mevatlan." Well, he can marry her again, but maybe she doesn't want, and maybe he's a Kohen, and could create problems. But originally, what they would do is you didn't have to run after him. You could just make a best in 3 people, get them together, and say, "Look, I sent someone on a mission to divorce my wife, and I'm being mevatel the shlichus. I'm taking it back." Yes, you get 3 people. That's like a nether. Very good. I'm taking it off in front of a bestin. However, Hiskin Rabbi Gamliel Azakin Shleyo Eisenkain, they took an island. Rabbi Gamliel Azakin instituted that you shouldn't do that because she may receive it. She won't find out about your little bestin, and yeah.
But she can't divorce him anyway.
No, but she'll be divorced. She'll think she's divorced. She'll think she's divorced. She has a get, and then so she finds out years later that no, there was a bestin. Okay, so that's why Rabbi Gamliel Azakin instituted that that's not a good idea. Okay, Higi like Tani. It doesn't say that he reached him. Ela Higia. It says he reached. Afilu Mamela. Sounds like what happened was that they happened to chance upon each other. The husband and the messenger chanced upon it. He said, "No, it's no good." The chiddush over here is we don't say if he was running after the shliach to stop him, then we know that he really wants to nullify it. But maybe he just wants to torment his wife. So maybe he's just saying, "Yeah, it's not a real get. She wants the get, and he's tormenting. She doesn't know, is she married, is she not married?" And this, I know she's sending it. He's not sending. These people, the Jacob. You can never get a straight answer. Anyway, he's saying it's not a good get.
But wait, when the guy was on the other side of the river, because he didn't make it in time, he says, I'm here, it's no get, no. And he said, sorry. You're on the other side of the river.
Yeah.
How comes over there?
So over there, he had given the get, and the get is already valid. He gave it to her. He's not.
He gave it to shliach.
He didn't give it to a shliach. He gave it to her. Here, what he's doing is b'matel the shliach.
I remember.
As long as he doesn't show up on time.
Yeah.
The situation of the river was that there was a stipulation that if he didn't come back before,
Then the get would be valid.
So, but I'm saying here he comes back. He's just on the other side of the riverbank and he's saying, I'm here, honey. Which is just,
Right.
Because it was the conditional, right?
Yeah, but that's when he gave her the get. She actually had a real get that was handed to her. That's valid. Here, he's sending a messenger. The messenger is empowered by the husband. He can break that empowerment and by in front of 3 people saying that I'm stopping the shlichus.
what if there were 3 people on the other side of the riverbank where he was? And he said, quick, let's have a base in. I want to know that.
I think it's too late. I think he gave her the get already.
yeah, they
Yeah.
had that stipulation.
That I always use a shliach.
Then the Gemara goes on, quoting the Mishnah. Why do you have to tell me the case if you sent the shliach after the shliach to tell him that the shlichus is over? I could have thought that maybe the second shliach shouldn't be stronger than the first shliach. The first shliach, he sent him to say that he should give the get. He sent another shliach to say that he shouldn't. Maybe the first one is stronger than the second one. Kamash Malan, no. Second one knocks off the first one. Why do you have to say the case when he runs to his wife to tell his wife not to? When did we say, I could have thought that, when do we say that he's not trying to torment her? That's only if he's trying to stop the shliach, because it never reached him reached her anyway. But if he's going to the shliach, to his wife, obviously he's tormenting her. He's just trying to torment her. She was asking for a get for already 20 years. And now he's coming and saying, I sent you a get, but it's not a valid one. It's just Kamash Malan, that no, actually, it actually isn't valid. He's not just trying to torment. See, if he's tormenting her, then it doesn't mean that it's not valid. It's still good. He just wants to make her crazy. Or he sends a shliach to her. Why do we need that? Maybe himself, he's not going to run to torment her. But if shliach, he would send the shliach to torment her. He doesn't care. The shliach has to bother himself. So it's for sure to torment her, and it's really, the get is still good. He didn't really nullify it. Mashmalan, no, he actually nullified it. Once the get reaches her hand, he cannot nullify it. Pshita, obviously, saying that he was trying to nullify it the whole time. Maybe we should say that now it should retroactively show us that that the whole time it was trying to be mevatel, that it should be batal. Kamash Malana, we don't say that. We say it's only batal when he gets there. Okay. Taner Rabbana was taught in a brayso. Batal who? Let's say he says it is batal. Ef shibai. It's impossible with it. What is ef shibai?
It is
Oh, I don't desire it.
Yeah.
Ef shibai. I don't desire it. Dvarav kayamim. So it's he's nullified the shlichus. Let's say he says pasulhu. It's invalid. Ain't a get. It's not a get. He hasn't said anything because that's actually not true. It's not invalid. And it's not a get. It is a get. It's
he
just
gave it to her through a shliach.
He gave it to a shliach. Well, what we're saying over here is, in order for him to nullify the messenger, he has to use the right expression to nullify the messenger. He has to say that the message, the shlichus is batal, is nullified. But if he just says that it's pasul, uses the wrong word, it's invalid, that doesn't do anything. Lememra, but what you mean to say, is this to say the batal lishna deli batal mashma? Are you trying to say that it should be batal, that it should be nullified? V'amar Rabba bar Evo, Amar Rav Sheshes, Amar Rabba bar Ravua, the Kabul matana shamalacha shabas matana liana matana zuma vuteles. If he says that this gift is void, tibatal, it should be void. Ef shiba, I do not desire it. It's too late. But teilahi, it is nullified. Eina matana. It's not a good gift. Which means that by the gift, it's the opposite. By the gift, he had already given a gift. He's coming to say that the gift that I gave wasn't really done. It was batal from before. It was nullified from before. So then, in order to nullify it, he has to nullify it, but before, because it's already been received, he has to say that back then it wasn't really good. And by the get, and when he says betelahi, it is nullified. When he say is, does that mean it was or it will be? So, by the matana, by the gift, we say that is means was. And by the get, we're saying that is means it should be in the future. Alma batal mikaramash. You see that batal by the gift means going back. Amar Abaya, so Abaya explains batal. Mashma. Batal could mean two things. Mashma the batal.
If the get is, let's just say the get was possible.
You'll see that in a moment.
Why don't you say bizayin, cheshushin lebizayin baal?
Hmm, 1 second. Choshen lemizayin baal was when the wife sends a messenger to receive the get.
But it was a general concept. Why don't you say over here, oh, it's cheshushin lebizayin baal, the get is buffer.
Now, where was the bizayin baal? The thing is, the baal here is sending both messengers. He sent the first messenger, and he sends the second messenger also. First messenger, he says, use.
Maybe in the middle, the wife insulted him and did something, so he's like, forget about it, game over.
Yeah, the enachanami. So that's what we're saying. That maybe she did something, and he's actually nullifying the get.
What about even after she receives it?
Oh, so after she receives it, we say that he didn't get a chance to nullify it in time. But you're asking that by bizayin baal, yeah, if she would have actually done, like, sent the shliach to receive the get from the husband shliach, then we would say that maybe he wouldn't have, that wasn't his instructions. But here she's receiving the get. She's not actually doing something that we know of that should be a bizayin baal that would nullify the get. What happens over there? Over there also, that should nullify the shlichus. That's what it would be. It would nullify the shlichus. We don't know of anything. The only thing we know is that he sent the shliach to stop it. The shliach never made it. Yeah. Yeah. It has to reach her. Yeah.
Here it changes like the words with referring to a gift. It says if one prefers the gift to another to a third party, once the third party takes possession, it's done.
Right.
And if he says take this gift to so and so, he could.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So, and it's also mashma. The get could be batal, which means that it is and it was mashma dili batal, and it also could mean that it will be batal. Gabe get, when it comes to a get, lishna de mahani bekamar, he's referring to what is effective, which, in other words, an ambiguous term is going to be translated in each context the way that it's going to work. So by the get, what would make it nullified? He said not that it was nullified, the messenger, but it should be nullified. So by the get, it means it should be nullified. Gabe matana, but by the gift, listen to Bahani Makama, it's going back and he's saying that it never was a real gift. Amar Abaya says, Naktinan. Let's leave it at Amar Abaya. Let's leave it right here. Okay. Shabbat tov, everyone.
Okay, thank you. Have a good day.
Have a good day.